Can you pretend to be my date for tonight?" She begged the stranger who turned out to be a CEO. The rain came down in sheets that October evening, turning the Chicago streets into rivers of neon reflections. Emma stood outside the Grand Meridian Hotel, her emerald dress clinging to her shoulders, mascara threatening to run down her cheeks, though not from the rain. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone, staring at the cruel text message one more time. "Don't bother showing up alone. We both know you're still nobody without him." Her ex-boyfriend's words cut deeper than any knife. Tonight was supposed to be her moment of triumph, the annual charity gala where she'd finally proved to everyone, especially to Mark and his new fiancée, that she'd moved on, that she was thriving, that she didn't need him anymore. But standing here alone, soaked and shivering, she'd never felt more defeated. "Miss, are you all right?" The voice was deep, warm, and genuinely concerned. Emma looked up to find a tall man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit standing beside her, an umbrella now sheltering them both from the downpour. His dark eyes held something she hadn't seen in a long time, authentic kindness without expectation. Emma's voice cracked. She should walk away. She should go home, change into sweatpants, and accept that some battles weren't meant to be fought. But desperation makes us do extraordinary things. "I need help. I know this sounds absolutely insane, and you have every right to walk away, but—" She took a shaky breath. "Can you pretend to be my date for tonight? Just for a few hours, please." The stranger didn't laugh. He didn't look at her like she was crazy. Instead, he studied her face with a thoughtfulness that made her feel seen. "What's your name?" "Emma Richardson." "I'm James." He extended his hand, and when she took it, his grip was steady, reassuring. "And yes, I'll be your date tonight." Emma felt tears spring to her eyes, this time from relief. "Really? Just like that? You don't even know me." James smiled, and it transformed his entire face from handsome to genuinely beautiful. "I know you're standing in the rain, afraid to walk through those doors alone. I know you're braver than you think you are. And I know that whatever's waiting in there, you shouldn't have to face it by yourself." He offered his arm. "Shall we?" As they walked into the grand ballroom together, Emma felt the weight of dozens of eyes turning toward them. The room was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing light across tables draped in ivory silk, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. But Emma barely noticed any of it. She was too aware of the man beside her, the way his hand rested lightly on the small of her back, guiding her with quiet confidence. "Emma!" The voice was saccharine, sweet, and poisonous. Melissa, Mark's new fiancée, glided over with Mark trailing behind her like a shadow. "We didn't think you'd actually come. And with a date, no less. How unexpected." Mark's eyes raked over James with barely concealed jealousy. "Yeah, who's your friend?" Before Emma could answer, James stepped forward, his entire demeanor shifting. The kind stranger from the rain transformed into someone else, someone who commanded attention without demanding it, someone who belonged in rooms like this. James Hawthorne. "A pleasure to meet Emma's friends." The color drained from Mark's face. Even Melissa looked stunned. Emma glanced between them, confused, until an older gentleman approached their group. "Mr. Hawthorne, I didn't realize you'd be attending tonight. This is such an honor. The foundation has been hoping for your support." It hit Emma like a freight train. James Hawthorne. The James Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Industries, one of the largest philanthropic organizations in the country. She'd read about him in Forbes, heard his name whispered in her marketing circles, but she'd never seen his photo. He was notoriously private, rarely appearing at public events, and he was here with her as her pretend date. "If you'll excuse us," James said smoothly. "Emma and I were just about to find our seats." As they walked away, Emma whispered urgently, "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" "Would it have mattered?" His eyes met hers with that same genuine warmth. "You needed someone to walk through those doors with you. I'm glad I could be that person." Throughout dinner, James played his role perfectly, too perfectly. He asked about her work, listened intently as she talked about her small marketing firm, laughed at her jokes, and treated her like she was the only person in the room. But it was the little things that got to Emma. The way he remembered she didn't like mushrooms, and quietly switched their plates. When the entree arrived, how he rested his hand over hers when Mark walked by, The protective way he'd lean in and whisper, encouragement when he sensed her. Confidence wavering, it was pretend. She had to remember it was all pretend. During the silent auction, Emma found herself standing before a painting, a stunning watercolor of the Chicago skyline at sunset. She'd been admiring it for several minutes when James appeared beside her. "You like it?" "I love it," Emma admitted. "The artist captured something real, you know? The way the city can be harsh and beautiful at the same time. How you can feel completely alone in a crowd of millions, but then find unexpected connection in the most unlikely places." She blushed. "Sorry, I'm rambling." "Don't apologize. That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in months." When the auction closed, Emma was shocked to learn James had won the painting. "I can't accept that," she protested as he handed her the certificate. "It's not for you," he said softly. "It's for me." So I remember tonight. The evening wound down, and Emma found herself not wanting it to end. On the ride back in James's car, she finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Why did you help me, really?" James was quiet for a long moment, watching the rain stream down the window. 3 years ago, I lost my wife to cancer. Before she died, she made me promise not to become one of those people who forgets how to be human, who lets success become a wall between myself and the world. His voice was thick with emotion. I almost broke that promise. I've been going through the motions, attending the meetings, signing the checks, but feeling nothing. Then tonight I saw you standing in the rain, and something in me remembered what it felt like to just help someone. No agenda, no transaction. Just one person seeing another person who needed kindness. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry about your wife." "She would have liked you," James said with a sad smile. "She always said the bravest thing a person can do is show up for their own life, even when it's terrifying." The car pulled up to Emma's apartment building. She should get out. The night was over. But instead, she turned to James and said, "Would you like to come up? I make terrible coffee, and I promise I'm not trying to be anything other than honest when I say I don't want to be alone right now." James's answer was to open his car door. They talked until dawn. Real talk about loss and fear, about dreams deferred and hopes rekindled, about the masks we wear and the cost of taking them off. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, Emma confessed that she'd wasted 2 years trying to become someone Mark would love, only to realize she'd lost herself in the process. "You know what I learned tonight?" James said, his fingers intertwined with hers on the couch. "You were never lost. You were just waiting for the right moment to remember who you are." As the sun rose over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Emma realized something profound. Sometimes the universe sends us exactly what we need in the form of something we'd never think to ask for. She'd wanted a fake date to prove something to her ex. Instead, she'd found someone who reminded her how to be real. "Can I see you again?" James asked at the door. "A real date this time. No pretending." Emma smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I'd like that. But fair warning, I'm done pretending to be anyone other than exactly who I am." "Good," James said, kissing her forehead softly. "Because that's exactly who I want to know." 3 months later, that watercolor painting hung in Emma's office, a reminder that sometimes our darkest moments lead us to our brightest connections. And every time she looked at it, she remembered the truth she'd learned that rainy October night. The greatest gift we can give another person isn't perfection or pretense. It's the simple, profound act of showing up for them and for ourselves with honest, open hearts.